everyone, for today's fundamentals video, I thought I'd go into a basic but vital thing you need to know for any animation or video work, cinematography. Now I have gone over a bit of this in my pre-production fundamentals video, but this will be more in depth and specific to camera work and video terms, which is something people in 2D and 3D animation alike and video production need to know. So let's get started because there's gonna be quite a bit to cover. Firstly, I'm sure you've heard the terms frame and shot. It'll be important, since I'll be using these terms a lot through this, to establish the difference because they aren't actually the same thing. A frame is a single still image, and if you've ever heard the term FPS, frames per second, or frame rate, all of these things mean how many single images you're seeing in every second of video or animation. Framing as a verb is also setting up how all the elements will appear where in your frame. A shot, put simply, is a series of frames captured between when a camera starts and stops capturing said frames. So a frame is one image and all the visual information in that image, and a shot is an illusion of motion made from adding a ton of those frames together, kind of like flip books back in the day or cell animations. While I'm at it, a take is a single version of a shot, with filmmakers typically recording several takes, with only one of those making it to the final cut. That out of the way, let's talk about composition. Composition, in terms of video, animation, and photography, means how all the elements of a frame or shot come together, from the camera position and angle to the character and prop arrangement. When you're setting up a composition, the first thing you should always keep in mind is the rule of thirds, which is something that applies to any kind of art or design. The idea of this is that you can lay a 3x3 grid over any image or footage. In theory, the 4 spots where those grid lines intersect, known as points of interest, naturally draw the eye more, so you want your subjects to line up with at least one of those points where possible. It's really just a guideline, not an absolute rule, but I will say that you can lay that grid over screenshots from many shows or films, and it actually pans out. To help you apply the rule of thirds, there's also a process known as blocking in video production. Blocking is a pre-production step where you map out where your actors will be, how they'll move in a shot, and how your camera and lighting will move. I forgot to mention it in my pre-production fundamentals video, but it's something you can do with your storyboards to save yourself time and potential guesswork later. Some of the most common types of composition are long shots, which are shots taken from a long way away while still having the main subject showing. There's also a variation of this called an extreme long shot, which is even further out. Both long shots and extreme long shots are also often used for what are known as establishing shots, or shots at the beginning of a scene used to set up the location where something's taking place. Getting a bit closer to the subject, we have the wide shot, which is a shot where the subject is completely in the frame with some background. This is also sometimes called a full shot since the subject is fully in the frame. Get closer than that, and you've got a mid or medium shot where part of the subject is cut off, but you get more detail from the rest of the subject since it's closer. If you get close enough that there's almost no background and are super focused on the subject themselves, you've now got a close-up shot. Anytime you're even more focused, such as getting someone's eyes or mouth, you're getting what's called an extreme close-up. And between a medium and close-up shot, there is also the medium close-up. It's literally just a shot that's in the middle. The nice thing is that all of these aren't really hard to remember, since they are exactly what they sound like. On the downside, they're also subjective. What is a long shot for one person might be another person's wide shot. Even the descriptions I've given might be different than another person's, but these are the definitions as I learned them, so that's what I'm working with. There are also some other types of shots on top of what I've covered. Anytime you've got one character or a subject in the frame, you're getting a single shot, or 1S. Add another subject, and it's now a 2-shot, or 2S, because 2 characters or subjects are in the scene. 3 subjects is a 3-shot or 3S, and so on. There's also the over-the-shoulder shot, which is a shot framed over a character's shoulder with their head and shoulder visible, but the shot will be focused on another character or subject. So now, let's go into your camera. Whether it's an actual camera or just the virtual camera inside your animation program, this is going to be important. Depending on how you position your camera, you can affect how the entire scene comes across to your audience. This includes how the camera body is positioned and how the lens is angled. We'll start by talking about some different angles. Positioning the camera so it's looking down, up, or straight at the subject will also have different psychology to it. For example, pointing your lens up at a subject while the camera itself is lower will tilt the subject and make them appear taller. This low angle, also known as a worm's eye view, suggests that the subject you're focusing on is superior or stronger. This can make your hero look like a badass or your villain seem like they're terrifying. Opposite of that is shooting with the camera high up while the lens is tilted down on the subject, called a high angle or bird's eye view. This will make your character seem small and inferior. This can be shown while a character is getting picked on to show them being weak, or to make a character seem vulnerable. Meanwhile, if you want to give your characters the same status, give them a level, flat shot that doesn't have either of those angles I mentioned earlier. And as I said, not only the angle, but the actual position of the camera plays a part too. How close it is to the subject, or those shot types I mentioned previously, will have some impact, and so will the way a character or characters appear in the frame. For instance, if you get your character in a wide shot, it's likely to feel less personal to your audience than if you were to go with an extreme close-up. Even how you move the camera will change the impact on your audience. First of these movements is the pan. Panning left or right is turning the camera to the left and or right so the lens moves across a scene. If you instead turn the camera so its lens moves up or down, that's called tilting up or down. If you change the focal length on a camera lens so a subject looks closer or further away without moving the camera's body, you're zooming in or out. However, if you physically move the camera left or right, you're doing what's called trucking left or right. Actually lifting the camera or lowering it physically would be craning it up or down. And lastly, if you move the camera forward so it's closer to the subject, or backward so the subject's further out, it's called dollying in or out, or pushing and pulling. There's also a movement known as tracking, which in this specific context means that you move the camera and or the lens to follow a moving subject. This will, as with photography, blur the background while keeping the subject in focus as it moves. And on that segue, focus is how sharp or blurred characters and objects are in your scene. Depending on your settings and lens, you can shoot your footage so everything is in sharp focus, known as deep depth of field, or DOF. You can also change things up so your background or foreground are blurred with the opposite in sharp focus, known as shallow DOF or depth of field. As a side note, if you turn the focus ring on the lens or change up the focus distance on a camera in an animation program, you'll shift what you're focusing on, known as focusing in or out. This will change which things in a scene are sharp and which are blurred, or in video terms, which things are more important for the audience. And I'm actually going to be going over that in next week's tutorial. But before then, if you start zoomed in on a shot and pull the focus away so you reveal more of the subject, either by changing the lens zoom or by moving the camera, this is called a pullback shot. The last camera movement term I'll go over for this video is known as parallax. Parallax is an effect that lets you fake 3D depth in your animations. Boiled down, all parallax is having your background move slower than your foreground when you're moving the camera. So say you're trucking across a crowd. If you just move the camera, it'll still seem like things are moving, but there won't necessarily be a sense of depth to the whole thing. Now you could also use DOF to fake this, or you can use parallax, or both. Really depends on the kind of shot you want. If you have things in actual 3D space, as you move, the characters closer to the camera will seem to move faster than the ones further back, which also creates the sense of depth to the whole thing. In the same way, parallax will make closer objects grow or shrink faster than further objects if you dolly or zoom the camera around the same objects. I will also be doing a video on how to do this with AE's 3D camera in the future, but for now, that's about it for using your camera. And that was cinematography basics. Whether you're shooting video or animating, these are all going to be things you can and should use to make scenes more lively, particularly if they're otherwise slow scenes. With this already being an 85-line script, I didn't go into editing here, but that's a self-contained video that'll be coming in the future as well anyway. As always, I hope you've all learned something and enjoyed yourself doing it. If you have any questions, thoughts, or other feedback, you can let me know with a comment down below. You can also like this video and share it around, which helps with Google's rankings, and I'm planning to be back here every Friday, so be sure to subscribe for more awesome content. Have a great day, everyone.